Welcome YouTubers, it's Justin and I'm coming to you from the Big Blue Nation once again. And today I was going to talk to you about Pachira Aquatica. Now this plant has a lot of different names. Some of you may have known it as a Guyana tree, Guyana chestnut, Malabar chestnut, or the water chestnut. One of the most popular names that I've always heard it by was the money tree plant. A little background story as to why this tree is actually called the money tree plant is that a farmer supposedly found this tree growing on or around his property and was able to make quite a bit of a fortune from selling the seeds. This tree is native to the swamps, estuaries, and rivers of Central America on down to South America as well. It does, as the name implies, like a lot of water. Usually it's grown around lakes and freshwater swamps, and the roots will often do something that a lot of other freshwater plants do. They grow huge buttresses. The plant will develop large aerial roots that will actually come out and go into the water. So this tree is pretty popular for a bonsai just for that fact that it actually gets the huge aerial roots that kind of come out and buttress off the plant. Now, one distinct feature of this plant are the leaves. The leaves are palmately compound and they have anywhere from about 5 to 9 leaves. I think this one has about 6 for it's all of its leaves right now. The trees in the natural environment do not get that large. I think the highest they get is anywhere from like 60 to 80 feet. Indoors and in captivity, I think the highest I've ever seen one get is about 15 feet. So they do grow to be kind of like a shrub size. They won't get too large for you. The reason why they're called a chestnut is because they do grow really delicious kind of nuts. They do taste like peanuts. So a lot of people grow them for that particular reason. The leaves, the young leaves, the fruit, and the nuts can all be eaten. So this tree is not poisonous. You do not have to worry about that. As far as light goes, this tree performs really well in most light conditions. You can get away with giving it hardly any light at all, but I mean, it does like light. It is from the tropics, so the more light the better. If you do have a particular area where most plants don't fare too well because of the light, try the Pachira Aquatica because it will do relatively well. As far as water, just like the name states, this plant does like a lot of water. Now you do want to give the plant a little bit of time to dry out in between waterings. If you look down and you see dark discoloration, that just means that your plant does have a lot of water in there, and it's better to err on the side of caution and wait until it dries out a little bit. The stems actually can get something indicative of stem rot. If it gets too much water on them and sits there for a long time, the bark will loosen and start to fall off and actually cause harm to the plant. So you don't want to leave a lot of water sitting on the stems a whole lot. Just water the soil. As far as heat, the trees do like it a bit warmer. Remember, they are from the tropics, so around the winter time they can get down to about 28 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe a negative 2.2 degrees Celsius, but around that temperature they will drop a few leaves. So humidity is another important factor. Unfortunately, a lot of houses nowadays don't give plants the exact humidity they need, but this tree will fare without a lot of humidity. If you are looking to replace some humidity, I spray mine, mist it, just the leaves, not the stem, maybe every other day, something like that in the summertime. Around the wintertime, you don't have to mist it at all. Hardiness. The plants can thrive in the U.S. zones of 10 through 11, but they do need to be protected from the midday sun. So if it is really hot out and you live in an area that is kind of close to bright light, you need to offer some protection from the midday sun. Substrate. You can give this plant any kind of substrate based on like potting soil, although I wouldn't give it potting soil. That tends to be a little hard and compact around the roots. Something that drains relatively well, maybe something for like citrus or cacti works pretty well. And in fact, that's what I used in this plant was the Miracle-Gro citrus and cacti mix, and it has worked wonders for this plant. Actually, you can see that this plant is actually starting to get some of the aerial roots that are coming out on top. Do not cut those. That is part of this plant, and it needs that in order to survive. It's not just there for looks, but it will look a lot better. If you want to replant this tree, once it gets to be about this size, it only needs to be replanted every 2 to 4 years. All you'll do is take it out, and you'll notice that the root system is not that extensive. It is actually kind of a weaker root system on this plant. It's used to being dealt into shallower soils, so you won't have a whole lot to worry about with the roots. But if you see anything dead, drying, or decaying, you need to cut that off and then plant it in some sterile soil. Now, I would have to say, on the likable scale, this is probably in the top 10 of my favorite plants. It is one of the easiest plants to take care of as long as you keep the water off the stem. That's the only real problem that I've noticed with this plant. Give it pretty moderate filtered light and water it about once a week in the summer times, maybe twice a week. You can just kind of use your best judgment, and the plant will do relatively well. It really doesn't need a whole lot of pruning. If you let it grow natural, it will kind of develop into a rounder canopy and make it look like an all-around sort of bonsai for your home. Like I was saying, this plant doesn't have a whole lot as far as pests. The only thing I've really noticed with this guy, not on this particular plant, is some of them do get spider mites, and I do hear that scale kind of can take a hold on a plant. So if you can keep an eye out for those two, your plant will do relatively well. If you do have the option, I would get a single trunk species instead of one that's braided. The 5 braided tree is supposed to be a symbol of good fortune, but however, if one of the stems dies, then your tree will look relatively weird. Other than that, this is a really easy species to take care of, and will bring you a lot of luck and good fortune into your lives, hopefully. So that's really about it. Well, I hope this video has helped you all out. Leave me some comments if you've had any success or failures with this plant. I do look forward to hearing from you guys. If you did like the video, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. Take it easy, YouTube. Have a good one.